got, my wife is Robin, and she had CAR T in 2016. When she relapsed the third time in 2016, following her stem cell transplant the year before, with large B-cell lymphoma, the options basically were two: to move forward to an allo transplant or try a clinical trial. She was aware of the CAR T clinical trials that were just coming out of phase 1 at that time, and it had some good responses. She was hopeful for something that would let her regain her entire life, a professional, family, and physical life. And CAR T was that option. There were clinical trials. Nothing had been FDA approved. So we started trying to find where they were doing it. So I went through the clinicaltrials.gov website and emailed every single lead researcher in the country who was doing B-cell CD19 CAR T, and just did not get a whole lot of response. And then it was a contacts of Robin, who on a Physician Mom's Facebook group site kept posting her requests to find a clinical trial spot, and this wonderful oncologist in Ohio saw it, and they had a funded spot with the Novartis trial, which later became Kymriah. Of the three treatments that Robin got, the CAR T was by far the easier one and the better one. But then the flip side is that I do have some friends who've had blood cancers, and they just were very hesitant to get into a clinical trial because it was experimental. It was just not something proven, and they were dealing with physicians who wanted to stick with the chemos and things that worked for them, and those are the two camps. And I'm so glad that we went to CAR T when we did, and it's been the right choice for us. So I would say to folks to do your own research and figure out what you want your life to look like, and a clinical trial might be for you, because it is the way that all the new treatments, they have to start out as clinical trials. There's no other way to get them approved except by doing the proving. But we made the choice, and we're glad that we did in May of 2016. And at that time, there was kind of a backlog, and they were just figuring things out at the manufacturing plant. And, with the cells, well, in August, they let us know that there was a catch-22, that per the clinical trial approval, they were supposed to give the patient back all of their cells, but in this range, and I forget the exact range, but basically Robin, being an overachiever her whole life, had too many cells. So when they manufactured her cells, they replicated, and she had too many cells, and so they had to get FDA approval to either give her less than all of her cells, or all of her cells above the maximum that they had set for this trial. And it took almost a month for the FDA to decide which of those were acceptable. And then in September, we went to Ohio. Financially, Novartis paid for our trial. All the treatment, the hospital stay, travel was mostly reimbursed, sometimes not for me, but that's okay. And then she got her cells back. And so the cells come in a little, I know some come in a syringe now, but we had a little plastic bag, and it came in this frozen kit that they wheeled in, and they had directions on how to unfreeze it and thaw it out, and then they flushed it into her port with a saline solution. A lot of CAR T patients think that getting their cells back is going to be a big thing, and it's a very small thing, and that trial kept Robin overnight. As a caregiver, I was really glad to be at the hospital and be able to ask the why and why not questions. Later on in the process, when Robin had to come back, I think it was day 4, day 5, when she got her fever with CRS. She wasn't always totally with her fever, and sleeping a lot, which is normal. And so I think it's important to have a caregiver there to ask these questions when the patient may not be able to ask those questions. But a couple of days with the fever was scary. It was scary having been through, the chemo and the hair loss, and then the relapse and the stem cell transplant and the hair loss, and then the radiation and the tremendous weight loss and the down to nothing and then the relapse. And, to watch, Robin and I just had our 35th anniversary, but to watch the woman that you love and the mom of your kids and go through all this, it's just, it's tough. You're just tired of watching her get beat down. But I have to say the CAR T was a lot easier than the other two treatments for sure. So that's the good news. And then after 2 nights of CRS, Robin's fever went down. At that time, they really didn't want to give her anything, Tylenol, Advil, to hold the fever down, because they didn't want to interfere with the process. So she ran the course with the fever. They were ready to do more if they needed to, and it turns out they didn't need to. And the staff was great, and Robin recovered, and so we went back to our apartment, and Robin was a nut about walking. She rested a lot, slept a lot, and I would go out and get dinner and bring it back. And I think her focus on being healthy and getting exercise and getting those cells moving, and I think that was important, part of her recovery. And then after a couple more weeks, like day 26, 27, they let us go home. The next month, Robin went back to work part-time and then expanded her schedule from there, has never looked back, and is very, 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 very healthy. Today, we just, last week, had a 24-mile bike ride out in Colorado when we were there, and people that meet her and see her can't believe that she's this miracle patient. So my message to potential CAR T patients is you can too. It's possible. And I'm so glad we did that instead of the allo transplant, but it was a good gamble, and I'm so glad we did it, mainly because I have my wife back, and we're back to living life. She does have some lingering side effects, and has to watch certain things. Her immune system is a little off and very subject to insect bites, mosquito bites. She has a extreme reaction to that. So, we live in the South, so we have a mosquito service now, and we try to keep her covered up when we go outside or on a boat ride or something. But, those little things are nothing compared to some of the side effects that might have occurred with an allo transplant. So we think we made the right choice, and we're very, very happy with it. Now, Robin and I administer a Facebook group that has 2,300 members who are all CAR T patients or caregivers. And just today, 2 people said they'd gotten scans and were in remission still at different stages, and it's just so rewarding to be able to hook them up with each other. And many times the questions on their website are hey, did anybody have B-cell at Hutchinson in Seattle? And they'll get 23 comments of people that had treatment in Seattle. So I'm so happy for CAR T. It was the miracle that we were looking for. And I know it's not the miracle for everybody, but it has been for a lot of people. Faith helps a lot of people. It's important. I think counseling helps a lot of people. I had a Friday morning men's group that I met with and was able to share with them without a lot of judgment. A lot of survivors have struggled to, once they go in remission with CAR T, they've been fighting their blood cancer for so long they don't know what to do. They've lost their job. They've lost friend groups. Oftentimes you huddle down in your family, and some friends, like my family, my brother and sister, they just didn't know how to handle Robin's illness, and they just didn't show up for us. And that's not a criticism of them. It's just people handle you going through this differently. And when you come out the back end, a lot of people don't know what to do then, because now you're no longer sick. You're actually well. And what are you going to do? Robin, fortunately, was able to go back to her work. I'm able to go back to the things that I enjoy in my volunteer activities. And I coach high school basketball in the wintertime and things that are appropriate for somebody my age. But not everybody has that, and especially for younger people or younger adults. Now they've had an employment gap, and so I have advised a lot of folks through the group to use counselors, and I think that's okay to find somebody smart to talk to and just unload this with somebody who might be able to help you, or at least to listen, and just keep showing up. I think that's my gift. I keep showing up, and you have to do that, and be supportive. But I will say, I used to drive around. There were months and months and months where I would drive around and I was convinced I was going to lose my wife. And I had mentally written and rehearsed her eulogy. It was going to be a stem winder. You'd have to know Robin to understand the impact she's had on people, her patients, and people in the community. And I don't rehearse that anymore. I haven't thought about that in over 3 years. So that's hope, is that you're not rehearsing your loved one's eulogy. You're planning your next vacation. And to come from crying in the car, rehearsing that eulogy, to planning a trip to the Cayman Islands, that's a big difference. And I hope everybody who's out there can make that transition like we did.